Steven Seagal, the action star with a steely gaze and Aikido moves so seamless he never needed a stunt double. Through the 90s, he was a global force, standing shoulder to shoulder with giants like Stallone and Van Damme, with over 40 films, 2 blues albums, and a fortune estimated at more than $16 million. Seagal once lived like royalty, a bulletproof glass mansion, a collection of Rolls-Royces, and a close friendship with Vladimir Putin himself. But behind that image lies a string of controversies, a 2010 lawsuit tied to allegations of human trafficking, boasts that many suspected were fabricated, and repeated accusations from colleagues of being arrogant and manipulative. At one point, even Hollywood turned its back on him. So, what propelled a martial arts outsider into the heart of Tinseltown only to fade away almost silently? Steven Seagal was a phenomenon. But was he ever truly himself before he became an action movie star? Steven Seagal was just a frail, asthmatic kid, constantly picked on in the schoolyards of Michigan. But a chance karate demonstration changed everything, igniting a burning desire in him to become strong, and that very moment altered the course of Steven Seagal's life forever, leading him to build the massive fortune he has today. Steven Frederick Seagal was born on April 10, 1952, in Lansing, Michigan, into a modest working-class family. His father, Samuel Steven Seagal, was a high school math teacher. His mother, Patricia Seagal, worked as a medical technician at a local clinic. Life wasn't destitute, but it was far from lavish. In a small Midwestern American home, Steven grew up with strict rules, simple meals, and no trace of luxury. From an early age, Steven faced serious health challenges. He suffered from severe asthma, relying on an inhaler and avoiding strenuous physical activity. That set him apart from other kids his age. On the playground, his thin, frail frame made him a target for bullies and teasing. A turning point came when he was 7 years old, at a local fair with his family. Steven stumbled upon a karate demonstration. The swift, precise, controlled moves left a deep mark on the fragile boy. From that moment, a passion for martial arts took root not out of a desire to fight, but a longing to be stronger, more in control. By his teenage years, the family moved to Fullerton, California. The change in environment, especially the warmer climate, markedly improved his health. There, he began studying Shito-Ryu karate, a traditional Japanese martial art. At 15, confidence started to replace fear when provoked by a group of classmates. Steven used his newly learned skills to defend himself effectively without causing serious harm, but enough to stop the bullying. For the first time, he felt he could take charge of his life. From a sickly boy, Steven Seagal found a reason to believe in himself. And from his love of martial arts, he began to nurture a bigger dream, not just to overcome his physical limits, but to cross national borders in pursuit of becoming a true martial arts master. At 17, Steven Seagal boarded a plane to Japan alone, no money, no contacts, just a dream of mastering martial arts. It seemed like a solitary journey. But it was there that he met the woman who would change his fate. And that unexpected marriage reshaped Seagal's life in ways no one could have imagined. After overcoming a frail and isolated childhood, Steven Seagal carried a burning ambition and made a choice that stunned his family, leaving America for Japan at just 17, not to attend college, not to find a job, but to pursue Aikido, a martial art virtually unknown in the US at the time. In Tokyo, Steven had no stable place to stay. He lived in cramped dorms, survived on instant noodles, worked odd jobs at restaurants, and begged to train at dojos. Challenges piled up from language barriers to cultural prejudice. A Westerner learning Japanese martial arts, few believed he'd last. But Seagal didn't give up. Every day, he arrived at the dojo before it opened, sweeping floors, cleaning, bowing respectfully. Each training session tested his body and spirit. That persistence caught the eye of Miyako Fujitani, a talented martial artist and daughter of a renowned Aikido master in Osaka. They fell in love quickly. Within a year, Steven and Miyako held a simple but heartfelt traditional Japanese wedding. Through this connection, he was invited to Osaka to teach at her family's dojo, an honor never before granted to a foreigner. Skepticism lingered. Many local martial artists doubted the young American's skill. During a public sparring event, Steven faced a challenge match, a fight that could crush his fledgling reputation in minutes. But with masterful Aikido techniques, Seagal calmly deflected each attack, subduing his opponents in utter silence. The room's scornful glares turned to respectful bows. In just a few years, Steven Seagal achieved the unprecedented, becoming the first Westerner to run a traditional Aikido dojo in Japan. But conquering Japan's dojos was only the beginning, because Steven was about to step into an even tougher arena, Hollywood. After nearly a decade in Japan, Steven Seagal returned to the US and opened a small dojo in West Hollywood. His unique, battle-ready Aikido style quickly drew celebrity students. One of them was Michael Ovitz, a Hollywood mogul who opened the door to the movie world for Seagal. In 1988, Seagal landed his first starring role in Above the Law. With his cool, efficient action style, he became an instant hit. A string of blockbusters followed: Hard to Kill, Marked for Death, and The Peak. Under Siege, a 1992 smash that grossed $156 million worldwide, catapulting Seagal into the top tier of action stars of the decade. At his height, his net worth was estimated at over $16 million, with back-to-back film deals and media coverage spanning Europe and Asia. From an unknown martial artist, Steven Seagal stepped into a world of bulletproof glass mansions, million-dollar supercars, and a lifestyle unlike anyone else in Hollywood. In the scorching heat of Arizona's desert, Steven Seagal once lived in a mansion that felt like a modern fortress, located in Scottsdale. This property, valued at over $3.5 million, sprawled across more than 9,000 square feet. It was encased in bulletproof glass, with imported travertine stone floors and an infinity pool overlooking the Sonoran Mountains. Flanking the entrance were two larger-than-life bronze samurai statues, a reminder to every visitor that the owner was more than a star, he was a warrior living by a code. The interior blended power and serenity: horsehide armchairs, ancient Japanese swords, sandalwood incense, and black ink calligraphy on rice paper. But that wasn't the only place Seagal called home. In Tennessee, he owned a lakeside property worth nearly $1 million, a stark contrast to Arizona's warrior vibe. The house had an old oak porch, white walls, polished wood floors, and windows framing a tranquil lake. No press conferences, no set noise, just the sounds of nature, where Steven meditated each morning and wrote music on moonlit nights. Beyond the US, he also owned a luxurious penthouse in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia's capital, a place tied to his deep personal connection to the country, estimated at $700,000. The apartment sat on the top floor of a newly built high-rise, with panoramic views of the Bogd Mountains. Inside, he decorated with hand-stitched Mongolian rugs, Buddhist statues, and a small altar for daily rituals. It wasn't just a stopover, it was a spiritual dojo, as he called it, where he connected with Buddhism, his Asian heritage, and himself. For Steven Seagal, a home wasn't just shelter, it was a reflection of each phase of his journey. From Arizona's glass fortress to Tennessee's meditative lakeside retreat and Mongolia's mystical steppe apartment, each place marked a chapter in the story of a man who went from a frail boy to a global icon, never losing his inner core. Stepping out of a 1971 Ford Mustang Mach, one Steven Seagal looked like he'd walked off the set of a modern Western. Jet black, thick tires, a V8 engine roaring under the desert sun, the car was a symbol of the fearless, untamed America he revered. Seagal personally oversaw its restoration at a Nevada garage, keeping the original body while upgrading the suspension for long drives. Today, it's valued at $75,000 to $85,000, but its emotional worth far exceeds that. To him, it was a warhorse, embodying the resilience of his rise from nothing. Not just nostalgic, Seagal was also practical, for charity events or training with reserve police. He often drove a custom Cadillac Escalade ESV in titanium gray, priced at about $95,000 with upgraded interiors. It was his mobile sanctuary: spacious white leather seats, a mini fridge, and a tailored center console holding his Aikido gloves and vintage music player. A friend once shared that Seagal drove it across 3 states just to make a community event in Louisiana on time. It's not flashy, but tough, like the martial spirit he's carried his whole life. Then there's the Rolls-Royce Phantom, the crown jewel of his collection, bought after Under Siege's massive success. This ivory-white Phantom, worth nearly $400,000, featured a personalized license plate and Japanese-inspired interiors: gray silk seats, hand-carved oak dashboard with an etched eagle, a bird he admired for its majesty. He didn't drive it often, but for special occasions, film anniversaries, or cultural meetings, the Phantom was a quiet presence of a man once watched by the world, now choosing a quieter path. Unlike stars who collect cars to show off, Seagal's vehicles were extensions of himself: the Mustang for his stubborn youth, the Escalade for silent missions, the Rolls-Royce for moments worth remembering, and on every drive, from Arizona's deserts to Tokyo's streets, he was always behind the wheel. Some stars live under stage lights, but Steven Seagal was different. He lived in the dim glow of a meditation room, the scent of sandalwood, and the whisper of wind through a stone garden. After Hollywood's glare, Seagal chose a secluded, almost private lifestyle. He rose early, often before dawn, to meditate in a small room off his backyard, where a single ancient Japanese calligraphy scroll hung. In a rare interview, he said, "Mornings are when you see yourself clearest." Those weren't just words on paper. They were the rhythm of a man who lived two lives as an action star and a Buddhist scholar. He ate mostly vegetarian, favoring greens grown in his Arizona backyard garden. His dinners were simple miso soup, brown rice, steamed vegetables, much like Japanese martial arts masters. No lavish feasts, no hard liquor, but occasionally, he'd invite close friends over to listen to blues on a 20-year-old analog sound system he'd collected. Raw vocals, a scratchy voice, and a cup of hot tea that was enough. Seagal's style was the same. He didn't chase fashion. He wore long Chinese silk coats or samurai-style brocade jackets, always in dark tones. His wardrobe held no high-end labels, just pieces evoking his philosophy: grounded, simple, no need for show. Every item, every book, every sword on his wall had a reason to be in his space. Spending, for Seagal, wasn't about proving anything. He didn't invest in the shiniest things, but in what brought him closer to himself: an antique guitar, a rice paper sutra, or a quiet trip to a Tibetan monastery. Amid the image of a cold action star and a meditative martial artist, there's still a very human Steven Seagal. He's been through 4 marriages, with 7 children spanning Japan to the US. His first marriage to Miyako Fujitani, daughter of an Osaka Aikido master, wasn't just fate bringing him to a dojo, it was the start of a whole new chapter. They had 2 children, including Kentaro Seagal, an actor and model based in Japan. Later, he married Adrienne LaRussa, then Kelly LeBrock, an 80s beauty icon. His romance with Kelly made headlines, but it also gave him 3 children, including Arissa LeBrock, an athlete and model with her father's strength and her mother's poised allure. Beyond family, Seagal poured heart into charity. After Hurricane Katrina, he went to Louisiana to aid search and rescue efforts with police. In quieter years, he discreetly supported environmental projects, Tibetan Buddhist cultural preservation, and funded free martial arts centers in struggling areas of the US and Russia. Now in his 70s, Seagal rarely stars in films, but his values live on through his children, students, and those he's quietly helped. He once said, "I don't teach martial arts to make people better fighters. I teach them to master themselves." What happens when an action star faces his own dark side and the public's skepticism? After his time in the spotlight, Steven Seagal entered a turbulent chapter. By the late 1990s, his film career began to stall. The blockbuster action flicks of yesteryear, like Under Siege and Hard to Kill, gave way to straight-to-DVD releases such as Out for a Kill and Belly of the Beast. Critics panned the shaky scripts, subpar effects, and Seagal's repetitive performances. But the real challenges didn't come from the box office, they came from his personal life. In 2010, Steven Seagal was hit with a bombshell lawsuit that shook public opinion. A personal assistant filed charges accusing him of harassment and abuse of power during the reality show Steven Seagal Lawman. Though the case was later dismissed, Seagal's public image took a serious hit. The show was forced off the air for a time. Around the same period, claims Seagal had repeated throughout his career came under scrutiny. He'd long stated he trained directly under Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, but experts pointed out Ueshiba had passed away before Seagal ever set foot in Japan. Additionally, his oft-mentioned Yakut and Buryat heritage was questioned for accuracy, fueling doubts about the authenticity of the persona he'd built. Yet, while many might choose silence as their reputation dims, Steven Seagal did the opposite. He returned with a second season of Steven Seagal Lawman in 2011 and released his second blues album, Mojo Priest. In music, he showed a different side, gentler, quieter, almost introspective. He also devoted more time to charity and community work. A standout was Project Medicine Lake, where he collaborated with indigenous communities to preserve local nature and culture. Amid the storm of controversy, Steven Seagal didn't pick a fight. He chose to keep working, whether on small film sets, blues stages, or at police stations where he served as an honorary officer. Can a string of scandals erase the legacy of a martial arts legend, or do they only highlight his endurance and grit? A man with 7 children, 3 nationalities, and an unshakable belief in his own path, what did he ultimately leave behind for the world? Steven Seagal isn't just an action star with over 40 films spanning from the 1980s to today. He's also a genuine blues musician, having released 2 album songs from the Crystal Cave in 2004 and Mojo Priest in 2006, performing across America with his trusty Gibson guitar and raw, heartfelt melodies. In 2023, he was awarded Russia's Order of Friendship, one of the highest honors for foreign citizens, contributing to international relations. Before that, in 2018, the Russian government appointed Seagal as a special envoy for Russian-American humanitarian relations, a rare role for anyone in entertainment. But the rest of his life isn't confined to titles or awards. Steven is a father to 7 children from 4 different relationships. Each child carries a piece of his legacy: martial arts, music, and a blend of Eastern and Western cultures, through marriages to women from Japan, Mongolia, and America. Seagal became a rare symbol of cultural convergence in a lesser-known turning point. In 1997, he was recognized as a tulku, a reincarnated Tibetan Buddhist Lama, an extraordinary honor for a Westerner. He opened Aikido and meditation centers in Russia and Asia, spreading a philosophy that fused martial arts with spirituality, aiming to use martial practice as a path to inner peace. In Hollywood's noisy, judgmental world, Steven Seagal has always lived his own way, imperfect, unapologetic, but ever forward-moving. From an asthmatic boy in Michigan to a global cultural icon, Seagal reminds us you don't need to start with advantages, just with determination. And when the world doubts you, it's faith in yourself that carries you to the end. If you believe everyone has the right to write their own journey, drop a comment below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to keep spreading inspiring stories.